Time for another lore compilation. I don't have too much in the way of personal updates this time around, besides that I want to thank y'all. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback. I'm very glad y'all have been enjoying my videos. My subscriber count's growth is also amazing. I'm setting a personal goal to hit 10k before the end of the year. I think that's definitely doable with the growth I've been seeing, and I'm going to do everything I can to hit that goal. If you want to help out, you can always like and comment. It's good for the algorithm. Apparently, I'm not going to pretend to understand how it works. And if you're new here and you like my content, consider subscribing. I'm already hard at work on my next long-form video, which should hopefully be done in 2 weeks. Anyway, on with this video. This will be a compilation of all my Sonic shorts that were originally posted in April of this year. This is where we're getting to the point where I started posting them to YouTube, and some have already been uploaded as shorts here. I still think it's good to have them in compilations too, because I know some people just don't care for the shorts format and prefer these. Like usual, I will be cutting any video that was just speculative about news, or just isn't relevant anymore. Hope Kintobor is a character from the Archie comics and is Eggman's niece. Having spent the majority of her life off-planet, she is the child of Colin Kintobor, Snively's father. When the Overlanders returned to Mobius, Robotnik used their fear of the Mobians to manipulate them into joining him in Robotropolis, with the plan to roboticize all of them. Though her father and grandmother would both end up roboticized, Hope would manage to escape with some other Overlanders, choosing to stay in Knothole Village while all the other Overlanders relocated to Station Square, where she would eventually meet Shadow, who immediately spotted the similarities between her and his lost Maria. This would lead the two to developing a close friendship and her beginning to work for the Guardian Unit of Nations, putting that Robotnik intelligence to good use. She would also reunite with her half-brother Snively, but while it would seem happy at first, his inevitable betrayal would end up breaking both their hearts. Dr. Julian Snively is the rebooted continuity version of Snively. Once a minion of Eggman, but no longer his nephew, he now works as a scientist for the Guardian Unit of Nations. Despite him now technically being an ally, Team Dark doesn't seem to think too highly of him. Knuckles isn't a fan either, remembering that Snively once took part in an attempt to steal the Master Emerald. His employers at GUN don't even really trust him, believing him to be a traitor, which probably would have turned out to be true had the comic continued. In the Sonic Universe arc, Knuckles the Return, while Vector and Ray were guarding the Master Emerald, the shrine was attacked by hordes of robots known as Wing Dingoes. The two are both outnumbered and outmatched, leading to Ray hopping on top of the Master Emerald and transforming into Super Ray, shocking Vector and scaring off the Wing Dingoes. Vector immediately asks Ray since when can he go super, to which Ray responds that he can't, but the Wing Dingoes didn't know that. Funnily enough, in Sonic Mania, like all the playable characters, Ray can attain some type of super form, but it's nowhere near as flashy as Super Sonic. So I was asked where this panel came from. Because it does kind of look like official art, I've seen some people assume it's either Archie or IDW, but it's really neither. This image originates from the fan comic Archie Sonic Online, which largely is a continuation of the pre-reboot timeline. This panel specifically is from the story Disturbed from Mobius Legends number 3, which isn't part of their main continuity but was done to help develop their team's workflow. The comic also features this panel, which I've used a lot as a reaction image. I haven't read all of Archie Sonic Online, but from what I have read, I do really like it. I probably won't ever cover it here because it's so readily available, unless someone from the team specifically asked me to cover it. Check it out though, I like it. Captain Metal is an antagonist who appears in the Archie comics. Once a Metal Sonic who was destroyed by the combined efforts of Shadow, Blaze, and Marine, he was repaired and took over a pirate crew in Blaze's dimension, where he would once again come into conflict with her when he set out to collect the Soul Emeralds to power the Ego War, and succeeds in both capturing her and sinking Marine's ship. Blaze is eventually able to escape with the help of Cream, Amy, and Marine, as well as the fortunate timing of Bean and Bark betraying Captain Metal, which in turn causes Captain Metal to reveal his stronger, more crab-like form, capturing Blaze once more, intent on now using her as the battery for the Ego War. However, once again thanks to Amy and Cream, she's able to escape once more, giving her the opportunity to turn into her Burning Blaze form, leading her to easily melt down his physical form. And even after Captain Metal uploaded his consciousness to the Ego War, she is still able to send him down to the depths. The last shot of Captain Metal that we see in the comic implies that he somehow managed to survive the ordeal, but the comic didn't continue long enough to give him another appearance. So humans have kind of existed in the Sonic series since the beginning. Of course, as I've talked about before, from the development of the first game, they had planned to give Sonic a human girlfriend named Madonna, kind of a Roger Rabbit thing. But even though that was cut, something resembling this element still made it into the 1991 Sonic story manga, where a handful of very human-looking women are attending Sonic's concert. I am aware some seem to have animal ears, but later panels kind of make it obvious they're headbands. This isn't an abandoned element of the series either. While their exact status has changed over time, the very first episode of Tales Tube did explain where the humans currently are.
Folks like us usually live on these kind of islands, while people like this live in the bigger countries.
So they might show up in IDW one day. Eventually we'll figure out who the hell this is. Alright, so I was asked where this art of Shadow in a dress came from, since it also gets mistaken for official every once in a while. This originates from the short-lived fan comic Sonic Eggs, which parodies Sonic X, setting it right after Archie's Sonic X series based on the numbering on the covers. And the reason so many people end up thinking it's official is because the art in this portion of the comic was done by Tracy Yardley, who personally is one of my favorite artists for the Sonic comics. On top of that, this character isn't Shadow. He's Shades, an imperfect clone of Shadow that managed to escape from Eggman's base, who has an infinitely softer personality than our Shadow. Unfortunately, this fan comic only ran for 4 issues before abruptly ending, but it has been properly preserved. They also take a solid shot at Penders. Robotnik Jr. is Robotnik's son, who only appears in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Created after Robotnik was fed up with Scratch and Grounder's incompetence, he was designed with the intention of being, quote, as vicious, mean, and underhanded as Robotnik. However, due to a combination of Robotnik's neglect, Scratch and Grounder's cruelty, and Sonic showing kindness, this led to Robotnik Jr. betraying his father and deciding to side with Sonic. He makes an additional appearance later, falling in love with another Robotnik creation, Breezy. Mama Robotnik is a character who appears in several episodes of The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Usually living in the Mobius home for really bizarre mothers, she often escapes to menace her son along with the rest of Mobius. While initially appearing to look exactly like her son, she occasionally appears without a mustache. She does make a handful of appearances in the comics, such as a background cameo as early as issue 6, and an appearance in the off-panel gag comics as late as issue 258. That last one also holds an implication that Professor Pickle is now dating her. That is not the only version of Robotnik's mother across different pieces of media. Bertha Kintobor is first shown in a recap segment in issue 72, which also shows a young Robotnik. Then there's also Mombot from Sonic Boom, a creation by Eggman specifically constructed to act as a motherly figure in his life. She also ends up having a mustache. The next show is an in-universe TV program that appears in Sonic X, and is Cream's favorite show, to the point it greatly upsets her if she misses it. The show is hosted by a large purple fur-covered mascot named Next. In addition to making a handful of appearances throughout Sonic X, it is one of the few elements from the show that's been referenced outside of it. Cream's bio over on Sonic Channel mentions it being her favorite show, and a plush of the show's title character makes an appearance in the Sonic 2023 Christmas art piece. So Eggman's been given brothers a few times. In the Archie comics, Colin Kintobor was Snively and Hope's father, and also fought on the front lines during the war between the Mobians and the Overlanders. And like most of the Overlanders, went off-planet after the war, eventually returning and reuniting with his son and brother, only for him to be roboticized and meeting his demise shortly after. In Sonic Boom, the episode Eggman's Brother features Morpho, a shape-shifting robot created by an Eggman of a different dimension, who at first masquerades as Eggman's brother. While they make it incredibly explicit that he's not Eggman's brother with gags that only people familiar with the mandates would find funny, the narratives still treat them like siblings, so I'm counting it. Finally, the initial pitch for Sonic Underground was to feature Robotnik's evil twin brother, or I guess eviler twin brother in this case, Grotti, who would have been a skinnier Robotnik. This character has no official concept art, but there are a handful of fan designs out there. Relic the Pika is a character who appears in the Archie comics. An archaeologist currently stationed on Angel Island, she is a friend of Knuckles who he trusts enough to put in charge of the Master Emerald while he's away. She has a love of learning about cultures, not just ancient ones, but even contemporary alien ones, as she starts asking Shadow questions about the Black Arms. When Rouge first meets her, she assumes/teases that she's Knuckles' new girlfriend, something that aggravates both of them. Though no fighting ability of her own, she's more than willing to put herself in harm's way for what she believes in. She's also assisted by Fix-It, an ancient Gizoid who she found during her time on the island. In addition to just having entire stories dedicated to him, Classic Sonic does make a handful of appearances in the Archie comics. In issue 25 of Archie's Sonic X series, Sonic faces off with an entire color spectrum of clones. More specifically, they're non-living carbon constructs, so like fleshy robots, so we don't gotta think about it too hard when Sonic deals with them. The final homunculus he faces off with happens to look exactly like Classic Sonic, something our Sonic finds disturbing, and the clone does end up getting destroyed in the crossfire. In issue 230 of the main series, the comic briefly adapts the opening moments of Sonic Generations, including a brief appearance from Classic Sonic as basically an ad for the game itself. Akhlut the Orca is an antagonist who appears in the Archie comics. In the pre-reboot comics, he's less a typical Mobian and more a straight-up Orca with psychic abilities and mechanical augmentations, working for Eggman in order to gain control of the northern seas, while he allows Eggman to rule the northern tundra. Post-reboot, he's given a more typical design and is now formally one of Eggman's egg bosses, currently in charge of the northern ocean. Despite this, he has a long-standing rivalry with fellow egg boss and Rotor's father, Tundra the Walrus. Near the beginning of Archie Sonic's run, Ken Penders and Mike Kintarovic submitted a pitch for a special titled Slam Jammin' Sonic that would have crossed over with the NBA, where after accidentally being sent to another reality, Sonic finds himself in the middle of a game between the Seattle Supersonics and the Boston Celtics, where Sonic of course ends up teaming with the Supersonics before heading back to his own dimension. Honestly, based on the media landscape at the time, I don't think this pitch was too out of nowhere, and hey, if it happened, maybe IDW would have released Slam Jammin' Sonic: A New Legacy. Witchcart is an antagonist whose current sole game appearance is in Tails' Sky Patrol. As her name suggests, she is a witch in a minecart. Despite this relative obscure appearance, she has gotten to appear in the comics a few times. She appears in the Archie comics given the full name of Wendy Naugus, where she and her twin brother Walter are the main antagonists of the Eggman's Dozen Sonic Universe arc. Though when it becomes clear she has no chance of beating Eggman, she quickly offers to work for him, much to her brother's frustration. She then appeared as the main antagonist in IDW's Tails' 30th anniversary comic in a story that acts as a direct follow-up to Tails' Sky Patrol, with Tails having to save the day once more after Sonic gets captured by being the way he is. Waku Waku Sonic Patrol Car is a 1991 arcade game that was only ever released in Japan, in which Sonic is portrayed as a traffic cop having to deal with Eggman constantly terrorizing the road. Despite its relative obscurity, it's been referenced a handful of times in the comics, first being adapted in the off-panel segments in Archie Sonic 288, 289, and 290, in which Eggman's speeding almost causes him to hit several pedestrians. This comic also features a hedgehog version of the Hot Rod character Rat Fink, and during the story Sonic Learns to Drive in IDW's 30th anniversary Sonic comic, we can spot the car Eggman drives in the game. Duo the Cat is a character who appears in the IDW comics. Describing himself as pretty good with computers as well as pretty nimble, he is the newest recruit of the new Diamond Cutters. Just kidding. Duo is the current alter ego of the shape-shifting mercenary Mimic the Octopus, infiltrating the Restoration at the direction of Clutch the Possum, simultaneously sowing distrust among the team, while also getting close enough to Tangle and Whisper to enact his revenge. Silver and Whisper initially suspected him, but he seems to have thoroughly thrown them off his trail. What his current exact plan is isn't clear at this time, but currently the only ones who know of his identity are Surge and Kit. Great Battle Kukku is an antagonist who first appeared in the spin-off game Tails Adventure, and would later appear in the Archie comics. Leading the Battlebird Armada, his goal is to rule the skies while also rediscovering their homeland of the Babylon Gardens. The Babylon rogues used to fall within his ranks before they defected, beginning a long-held grudge between the two groups. While pre-reboot they are just affiliated with the Eggman Empire, post-reboot he is now a full-fledged egg boss. Being that Witchcart returned in the classic IDW comics, I do hope we get to see the Great Battle Kukku at some point in the future. The Desert Raiders are a team that appear in the Archie comics, composed of Spike the Porcupine, Sonar the Fennec, and Trevor Burrow the Mole. The group is very obviously meant to parallel Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, with Spike even saying that they modeled their team after them after being so inspired by them. They first meet Sonic and friends in issue 278, teaming up with them against the Egg Boss, Nephthys, only for it to be revealed that in actuality they're working with her, attempting to ensure that power is balanced between the Eggman Empire and the freedom fighters in the region. Unfortunately, the comic ended before this group was explored anymore. Tundra the Walrus is an egg boss and is Rotor's father. Once a strong warrior, his disapproval of his son's interest in mechanics ended up driving him away, beginning the events that would lead Rotor to become a freedom fighter. When Eggman conquered the region, the Doctor saw potential in Tundra and put him in charge of the territory. Tundra has an incredibly short temper, something that his rival and fellow egg boss Akhlut the Orca very easily takes advantage of. Unfortunately, the comic ended before Tundra and Rotor's dynamic could be explored more. From the very beginning, it had been established that Tails had been bullied for his extra tail, as stated in Sonic 2's Japanese instruction booklet. While initially unseen in the games, this would get a handful of references and adaptations. In the Fleetway comics, issue 128 introduces us to Tails' bullies, Witless Chris and Scratchy, who think he's a weirdo for his extra tail. That is before Chris ends up being kidnapped by some bat creatures, and Tails has to come to his rescue, earning Chris's respect. Tails' bullies were also depicted in episode 18 of Sonic X, though this time they aren't two foxes, but a fox, a monkey, and a bear. And of course the bullies would make an official appearance in one of the animated cutscenes of Sonic Origins, which would also subsequently be adapted into Sonic Prime. Captain Rescue is a character who only appears in the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog episode Over the Hill Hero. As the name of the episode implies, he is a past his prime superhero who is sometimes more trouble than his worth. Though depicted as having superpowers, his main abilities come from his utility belt of gadgets. Sonic grows frustrated with the hero's failings, but when Sonic is captured by Robotnik, which was kind of Captain Rescue's fault anyway, Captain Rescue does come to his aid. Iblis is one of the antagonists of Sonic 06. Along with Mephiles, he is one half of the god Solaris created by the Solaris Project. His essence would be sealed within the young Princess Elise, though if she ever were to cry, he would be released. His eventual escape would be what caused the destruction of Silver's future, which in turn sets in motion the events that would lead to his own release. Thankfully, he and Mephiles are defeated when Sonic and Elise wipe Solaris from the time stream. Because of this, Iblis doesn't get a whole lot of other appearances in the franchise, but he did just receive a major one, appearing in episode 4 of the Knuckles series. The episode's even named after him. In IDW Sonic number 62, Knuckles says he trusts Amy and about 5 other people max. But who are those 5? The most obvious are Sonic and Tails, as even though Knuckles thinks Sonic gives him nothing but trouble, he knows he's dependable in a situation. Though by his own admission, he trusts Tails more than he does Sonic. The other 3 are made clear in issue 65, where after the Babylon Rogues steal an artifact from Angel Island, Knuckles decides to get some help from the Chaotix. In fact, he only wants help from the Chaotix, shutting down any ideas about getting Amy's help purely to protect his own pride. The Metal Sonic Troopers are a group of robots that appear in the Archie comics. Constructed by Rotor and Uncle Chuck, they were built using the specs from the remains of a Metal Sonic as a means to battle Robotnik, when it was believed Sonic had passed after the Zorda incident. When Sonic returned to Mobius, however, the project was quickly shelved, their existence kept a secret. However, they would be unleashed upon Mobius by the AI Atom, leaving them outside of both Eggman and Uncle Chuck's control. Thankfully, the combined efforts of Sonic and Shadow proved to be enough to defeat them. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the content I make, you can support me over at patreon.com/8squid, just like the wonderful folks whose names are on screen right now. And a special shout out to my $5 patrons, Ned Rex, Nate DM990, and Diddly Do. See y'all in the next video.